Hey, what's up everyone? So the next two things I want to do is number one, I want to remove the kickstand. I prefer to just lean it or, like on my Q-Power here, fold it and just set down on stuff like that. It'll freestand on its own. There's also actually some big rubber feet underneath it for that purpose, so when you fold it down, it's sitting on those rubber feet and it's very stable at that point. So I don't really need a kickstand. I'd rather have that whole side open. After that, I'm also going to replace a couple LEDs on the front here. When you turn on your headlights, you also get these two red LEDs along the front of the chassis there that come on. To me, red lights on a vehicle mean rear of the vehicle. So that just looks kind of weird to me, having headlights and then what appear to be tail lights, both on the front. So I found these blue lights on Amazon. They also had amber. I debated whether to get amber. I think these will look pretty good. I don't expect they're going to give me a lot of light. I don't need it to with these headlights, but it'll kind of light up the front area of the wheel. I am going to have to widen out the hole that the lights go through because those are a little bit smaller than these blue ones. Changing out those red lights to blue and removing the kickstand are both going to require me to remove the battery from the chassis. So I've disconnected my two battery connections and also the two charger connections, so the battery is completely free from everything. I'm now just going to try and grab along the bottom, don't pull on the wires, and see if I can pull the battery up out of there. So I removed my controllers. They're just kind of, I didn't disconnect anything, I just kind of got hanging over the edge there and sitting on my bench just to get them out of the way, because I was trying to get my fingers down underneath the front of the battery there to pull it up, and it is stuck down with some of this double-sided tape here. I can't just pull it up easily, so I'm going to do what I've done with all the other scooters. Lean the front end of the scooter down like this, balance it against the chair, you know, make sure it's stable, you don't want it to fall over. And I took some WD-40 on the stream, you know, using the straw, and sprayed back and forth here at least 6 times like that, really saturating it. Hopefully that WD-40 will run down underneath there and unstick some of the points where it might make it easier for me to pull it out. Alright, so I actually, after 3 or 4 minutes, I gave it a second dose of the WD-40 and let it sit another 3 or 4 minutes. And then I was able to get my fingers up underneath this, and very slowly I could hear it peeling back, but the WD-40 definitely loosened that up. Once I got past this first tape here, the back came off right away. So I got that stood up now. I can remove this from the chassis, and then I need to wipe down my chassis from all the WD-40 I sprayed in there. You can see I used a lot. I wanted to saturate this stuff. Okay, so I got the battery sitting over here in a cardboard box, wiped it off a little bit. Actually, since the two tapes had been saturated with WD-40 already previously, I was able to just take a putty knife and get the majority of it off. This residue I'm going to soak in some WD-40 again, let it sit a few minutes, and then that'll wipe right off. And just to show you what this does, this has been sitting here in this WD-40 since I sprayed it under the battery before, and I went to take the putty knife to get it off, and it's literally just dissolved. No effort at all. So I probably should have waited another 10 or 15 minutes, and it would have been easier to get that battery off after I soaked it in the stuff. Look at that, just comes right off. Okay, so moving on to these red lights now that I want to remove and replace. If we look on the inside, there's a nut holding it on, same on both sides, and then a cable that plugs onto this cable here, same for both sides. I've unplugged the two red lights from the cables, the yellow and black cables. They're both identical. So I've separated my lights. I should be able to remove the nuts and then pull those lights out. Okay, so I took the nuts off the lights and slid the lights back to the hole. The nut does not fit over the plastic part of the connector. I don't plan on using this. Even if I did, I could solder the wire, so I'm just going to cut the connector off here on both of these and then pull the lights out. So when I ordered these blue LED lights here, I didn't really think it through far enough ahead. You need a 3/4 inch hole to fit this grommet through. I figured I'd just widen out the hole that's currently there from the red one. I knew it was bigger. I knew this one would be bigger, but didn't really think too much about it. Turns out I don't have a 3/4 inch drill bit, nor will my drill hold the shank on a 3/4 inch drill bit. So largest I have is 1/2 inch. So I ended up widening out to 1/2 inch, and then looking at this, I figured I'd just take the grommet off of it so I don't have to go as big as 3/4. So now with the grommet off, I just have the LED itself, and the hole only has to need to be big enough to get this back side of this LED in. Of course, there's a lip there, so I just need it big enough for that. And then this will go and sit against the chassis. So I widened out that hole with my 1/2 inch drill bit, but then I had to continue to widen it, just putting the drill in there and just slowly trying to ream it out until this fit in. This hole on the other side, in order to get a better angle at it, more straight on with my drill, I removed the front fender because it was sticking back about this far and was kind of in the way of trying to drill that out. Actually, I think I'm just going to leave it off. Done that also with my other screw. It's my Q1. I don't have a front fender. I removed it, and also my Q power. I just like the look of it better without the fender on it. Got my holes drilled out so the LEDs fit in there nicely, and then I filed down the edges. There's some sharp edges that I had to smooth out and even up with the chassis. So I scratched it a little bit there, and I'm going to hit this with some black paint. I got the lights mounted in there now. I just took a little bit of sealant and put it around the edges of the LED light before I put in the hole there so it would seal up and hold in good to the hole on each side. I decided to add another one of these blue lights to the rear fender, except pointing down, so this is going to mount in here like this. And then the blue light will be shining downward towards the rear tire. I'm going to put the fender back on now. I used the grommet with this one because it's much easier to get through the plastic to make a 3/4 inch hole. There's really only these 2 small screws holding the plastic piece of fender on mine because I cut the back half off. If you didn't do that, you'll have 2 more screws down here, but these are very tiny screws, and that's all that's holding this plastic fender on. I'm going to, as a precaution, use some of my shoe goo. Okay, so put a little bit down there on both sides, and then also on the inside up around the middle part of it. I figured the screws are good enough to anchor it up here. So I have 3 anchor points, screws, a midpoint, and then down on the bottom. Sealant's dry enough where I can go ahead and start wiring these up. On these particular lights that I got, for some reason beyond explanation, they made the black wire positive and the white is negative. They are reverse protected somehow. I purposely hooked them up backwards and then hooked it up the right way, and it still works. I cut off the connectors where the red lights were plugged onto because I'm not going to use connectors. And I'm going to hardwire these to the 2 lights. Yellow is positive here, black is negative, so I'm going to have to put the yellow to the black of the light and the black of the wire, which is negative, to the white of the light. Okay, so I got the 2 front blue lights wired up, and basically I changed my plan a little bit. I connected both of the blue lights together back here. So you can see I got my 2 white, which is a negative from the LEDs, together, the 2 black, which is a positive from the LEDs, together, going to a white and a black wire here because I had to extend the wire. And then extending a little further, I changed the colors. So the black, which is positive input to the LED, is now going to red. So red now is my positive, black is now my negative. Follow those down. I got them going to red positive, yellow's positive, coming out of that little LED driver, and black negative to negative. So I hooked them up on one of these outputs from this thing because the other one I want to use for my rear blue light that I'm mounting in the rear fender there. Those 2 cables go into this little thing, which then is fed by the direct battery voltage from the headlight switch. I believe this is just some sort of regulator circuit for the LEDs. At this point, I should be able to connect up my battery to my controllers again and then turn on these blue LED lights when I turn on the headlight switch. I have battery connected up. I actually just brought out a 2-volt nominal battery that I have a spare one for from one of my Q1 screws. It's got about 54 volts on it right now, which is well within the range. So 54 volts on this, I should still be able to run the lights easily. And I only need the 1 connection. Since it's a single controller in that screw, there's only 1 connection, but it's only the B controller that you need to hook up in order to make the lights work. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to turn on my headlight switch here, and there we go. Headlights are on, and now you can see instead of having the red lights in front, I've got these blue lights. I think it looks a lot better. Okay, so that works, that's good. However, I don't want them to be turning on with the headlights at all times. I want them to be part of my accessory lights. Converted my Eco Turbo switch to be an accessory light switch, so when I turn that on, that actually turns on my halo lights. So my halo lights come on with that push button, as well as my side lights. I did an RGB mod, RGB LED strip mod to the scooter, put on these RGB strip lights. So those and the halos are controlled by my yellow push button. I no longer have an eco mode, I don't use it anyway. But I want these blue front lights now to also turn on with the push button along with side lights and the halo lights. So they come on with those instead of with the headlights. So in order to do that, I need to cut the red wire going into this regulator circuit, and then there's the output to the LEDs. So that's right now currently being powered by the switched power from the headlight switch on this red wire. The black wire is negative, we're just going to leave that alone. But I need to open up this red wire here and connect it to my other switched voltage point from the yellow push button, and from my past videos, that's this one here with the red and yellow wire. That's the cable that goes up to the yellow push button. Here's the junction for the switched power right here. So I need to connect the red wire after I cut it from there over to my switched junction over here. I have my red wire, which is the input to that LED driver, going to that connection point for my switched power from the yellow push button. And then again on my output, I have both blue LEDs connected together, and then going to one of the outputs. The other output I'm going to use for the blue LED in the back fender. I should now be able to connect the battery, and the blue lights will not come on with the headlights, but instead will come on with the yellow push button. Headlights are on, no blue lights. So I still get my headlights with my light switch, I get my headlights and my tail lights, and that's it. Now when I hit my yellow push button, it used to be my eco mode switch, you can see I get the halos on the front, I get the two blue running lights, and I get my side RGB lighting. So all my accessory lights are on the push button. Next thing I need to do is hook up my rear blue LED light. So for that rear LED, of course, it had the black and white wires coming out of it. I ended up taking the old turn signals and took the tubing off of it like that. And then I put it onto the wires of the LED. So for my rear LED that I'm going to mount my fender, I'm going to need to extend these wires a little bit. So I'm going to make use of these wires from my old turn signals. I'm just going to cut them off and then splice them into these two wires here. I got those two wires connected now, and as you can see, I changed the color coding. So the black out of the LED, which is positive, I changed to red for positive coming out there, and the white, which is negative, I changed to black for negative. So now at this point, my extended wires, my red's positive, my black is negative, and I'm also using this sheathing that came off the old turn signals. I'm now going to put that on these wires. So there's how it looks with the sheathing on it. That should be enough so I can get these wires into the chassis. Alright, so I got my LED installed there, and the wiring with that sheathing that came off the old turn signals, just going back down that way, and then up through there, around there. And when I put the deck on, there is a little bit of space here, so that should fit in there nicely. And then I have it coming into the chassis here. Now I just need to hook these up to my other output from that LED driver here. So I have them all connected to the push button. I should be able to connect my battery and have them all work off the push button. All right, got the battery hooked up to controller B. I push my yellow push button. I get my halo lights on the front. I get my two blue LEDs on the front. I get my side RGB lighting. And I get my rear blue LED that I put into the fender there. So there's the front of it with the headlights on and the blue lights. And the rear end with the tail lights. And also the blue light in the fender. Just one final note here, these LED driver little circuits here, the ones that I connected up to run the blue LEDs. There's an exact identical one here that goes to the back tail lights. These do get very hot. I don't, they almost seem like they're getting too hot, but that's just the way they are. Again, this one on the, I did a test because I wasn't sure if running the two front LEDs off of one output was going to overheat it or cause some problem. So I did a test after I had all these hooked up. So in other words, as it is now, the two front ones on one side, the rear blue one on the other side. I turned them on. I turned on the rear tail lights, which are a completely separate LED driver, and I left them both on for 3.5 hours, much longer than I'm ever going to leave those lights on. Just I wanted to make sure nothing was going to happen, burn out or anything like that, the LEDs or something. And again, these, it's very hot here. It's 110 today, so sitting at 110 degrees in the garage here with these lights on for 3.5 hours. These little boards here, they do get very hot. I could put my hand on it, lightly hold it for like 3, maybe 4 seconds before I had to let go of it. But what I was really looking for is to compare the stock one on the back tail lights with this one now that I'm running 3 LEDs off of, and they were identical in heat. This one wasn't any hotter than this one was. I just received these two emblems I ordered off Amazon for 16 bucks for the two of them. Kind of chrome looking, and it's the toxicity symbol. I really didn't care so much about the symbol. I just wanted something that looked halfway decent. And I'm going to use these to cover up some of the holes in the chassis from where the old lights were. So I'm going to put this up there like that. And the other thing, when it's dark and I have those lights on, they illuminate against this chrome surface. I have these on my Q power, so that's why I decided to get them for this one as well. So I've already cleaned this area with some isopropyl alcohol, and then all I got to do is peel off the backing. There's adhesive on the back of it, and then place it where I want it, and it's going to be somewhere around there, wherever I can get as close as possible to cover up those 3 holes. Okay, so that went pretty well, covered up those 3 holes, and just have that one there and a small one up front there that I need to cover. For now, I'm probably just going to put some black grip tape over it just to seal it up. Alright, so that came out pretty good, I think. Covered up 3 holes on this side, and again I just sealed off those extra 2 holes with a little bit of black grip tape. I'll probably go back later and replace those with some stickers of some sort if I find something I like. So I plugged my battery back on, and I'm going to close the garage doors here so it's darker so we can see what those look like in the dark. By the way too, if you ever are unplugging and plugging your battery to your controllers, when you plug your battery back to your rear controller, the B controller, it's going to make a spark. There's going to be an arc there, it's going to pop a little bit. So just expect that. It's normal, there's nothing wrong. Here's what that looks like in the dark. A couple more things I want to do for it before I really start riding it. Again, I've only ridden this once so far. I have ordered new handlebars, which I just received, so I'm going to be doing that soon, replacing these handlebars. After that, I'm going to start doing a lot of riding and testing these stock controllers. I've ordered some sine wave controllers, which I have now also. So sometime, probably be a month or so before I install those, because I want to ride with these stock controllers, get a feel of how they are, do some testing, so I can compare it to the new sine wave controllers when I put those in. All right guys, until then, have a good one, take care. Oh, and I can't stress enough, everybody, if you ride these things fast like I do, get yourself a full face motorcycle helmet, protect yourself. I also wear gloves, armored gloves. I wear knee pads, and I also have a motorcycle jacket that's armored. And protect yourself. You go ride this thing fast, it's very dangerous, and you don't want to take a fall without being protected. You don't want to take a fall at all, but if you do, you're going to be glad you have the protection on. All right guys, until then, take care, peace.